Leadership can be defined in so many ways. For those who might not know, I get to lead people through Denise Talk at Leadership, a program and company that is near and dear to my heart. And I've met a lot of cool people throughout that process. All of you listeners being part of those. Working Moms Redefined was built out of a desire to help you lead your family and yourself better. And leadership shows up when we respond, when we are at our best, when we might not be at our best, and especially when we are tired, when no one is looking, when everyone is looking. Leadership is truly how we live our life and the values in which we handle anything and everything. We are going today to really evaluate how doing enough in leadership is defined and giving ourselves grace throughout all of that. Focusing on presence and our purpose and giving ourselves the opportunity to reflect and really noticing what we are already doing well. I can think of no one better than someone who I met several years ago in Orlando, Florida, who is a Maxwell Leadership certified coach. She is the founder of Alloy Solutions. She's a speaker, a counselor turned leadership developer. Her name is Jamie Hansen. And not only if you are watching on YouTube, but if you are going to be in the Quincy, Illinois area on February 27th, Jamie is coming to speak at our Leadership Redefined live event, which we will talk about later. But I can't wait for you to meet Jamie Hansen. Jamie, thank you.
Denise, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join you and your audience and have just this great, encouraging conversation. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to meet you all in person later.
It's all about pouring into other people. And Jamie, share a little bit about you, where you're from, where you live, how old your kids are. Let us get to know you.
Okay. I am a professional counselor by training, and Nebraska is my home state. I'm a lifelong resident, native. I grew up in Western Nebraska in a small town in my dad's grocery store, and they took us to Lake McConaughey every weekend in the summer, water skiing. I'm pretty sure that's how my parents kept us out of trouble. And now, having been a counselor by training, I can't believe that I started school 30 years ago to become a counselor. So I was 11 when I started school, just saying. So I've been in the professional counseling space. I was in private practice, running a large practice with my two partners. And I've always worked in employee assistance. So I've always had one foot, even through with therapy, in the organizational space. As a result, the speaking piece, the training piece, I'm basically training the same skills that we talk about in the therapist office for the organization. That started growing. And so 10 years ago, I felt like I was riding three horses at the same time between my own caseload, running the practice, and just helping organizations with their people. Something had to give. And my youngest had been playing college football, had made a run at the NFL, and decided to hang up the cleats. His name is Lincoln. And I said, no, no regrets, Lincoln. And he said, no regrets, Mom. And besides, I've got a business and a psychology degree. You need to launch this and you need help. So that's how my company was born. He did all of the Secretary of State legal kind of, just documentation you have to do, and social media, and crowdsourcing a logo, and just did all of that to really help me keep on doing what was paying the bills. So very proud mom I am as well. I have two sons. He's my youngest. He's now 34. He's married. He's got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. They're a ton of fun, those boys. That's Mandy and Lincoln. And then my oldest is Ryan. He is 36, and Haley, they actually currently live in Utah, but don't tell Mackenzie, their 4-year-old, but they're coming back to Nebraska soon. So the cousins will all be together. And they have a 4-year-old Mackenzie and 2-year-old Bryce. And right now, and also since 2017, Ryan is my business manager. So he manages a lot of the things. He's also trained facilitator, and does a lot of the lifting for Alloy Solutions as well. I never dreamed I would have a family company, and here we do. So count me so thankful. So that's us in a nutshell. And my daughters-in-law are rock stars, and everyone is a Maxwell Leadership certified coach. So I love that the grandbabies are growing up with these values as well.
It's beautiful to get to watch. Now, the person that I was referring to when I was in Florida that I got to meet at Maxwell Leadership was Jamie. She was someone who had been there many a times. This was not her first one, like myself. And I'll never forget, and I told Jamie this off camera, the amount of energy and light that she brought to a conversation the moment I met her, to the point where I'll never forget her sharing about her experience with her kids having a business, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I don't wanna tell my kids what to do, but man, that would be phenomenal. To get a family business, to be able to teach people how to be better leaders, sign me up. And Jamie, you live the John Maxwell values day in and day out, and I ask you this to think ahead for however much time we get to spend together today. What is it that you want listeners to take away from your message today?
Um, I want them to feel empowered and encouraged that, you know what, no matter what season you're in, life is full of ups and downs. And it's okay to be yourself and to make those mistakes, and you are enough. So that's the message I want to take away, because I think all of us, if we look back on where we were and kind of put ourselves back, 10 years or 15 years ago and think about where I was, most of us would never dream that we could be where we are today. Whether that's how many kids I have or all of the balls that I'm juggling with everything that's going on between home and work. Most of us would never guess that we'd be where we are. So stay the course.
And I think that's one thing that I've talked about many a times with clients is that all of us have a deep down fear of that we are not enough in some area more oftentimes than not. And if you can turn to God in that way, what a great place to be. And to have tools and people in place like Jamie and myself to be able to lead you through these types of conversations is even better. And Jamie, you've been able, as you mentioned, to go from corporate to business to personal to all of these different areas to help lead people. And over that time, and whichever entity you are in, what have you noticed about a common theme that shows up in leaders that you get to work with?
I think that the best leaders that I've worked with are very people focused. They are, concerned about how people around them are doing. They're engaging. I've also noticed this pattern, if you will. And again, that's why I say we need to give ourselves grace. I think sometimes we, like you said, we feel like we're not enough or we feel like we're not doing enough. And I call that the responsible person's problem. But I have noticed that sometimes because we drive ourselves, we push ourselves, we want to balance all the things, that we are always looking at like what's next. And so sometimes when we're comparing the distance between where we are and where we want to be, then we can get caught in that I'm not enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not being enough. So there's a balance there to strike between knowing where I'm going and knowing that I'm right where I need to be right now. And I'll have what I need along the way. Also combine that with our leadership. And like I love what you said about leadership is life. It's how we live our lives. And if I am concerned about others and focused on others, sometimes I might get caught up in, am I serving them enough? Am I doing enough for them? And we really need to give ourselves grace for that as well. We can communicate around that. We can ask them questions. But just starting with that place of being content in who I am and where I'm at, will give me the opportunities to see what I need to see to take those next steps forward.
Yeah. Your business is called Alloy Solutions. And through Alloy Solutions, you really focus and emphasize that there is a human side of leadership. You've already mentioned that. And obviously, you live with what you say day in and day out. What do you think that leaders often overlook when they're so heavily focused maybe on the deliverables or the outcome? Or dare I say that they are putting their success dependent on the other person's outcomes?
Mm, mhm. I love that question. I This is colloquial, but I feel like with my customers, I'm seeing this pressure more and more than ever for leaders. So I think there's a great deal of pressure that leaders are under to make it about outcomes and results and stock prices. And so, let's quantify everything. And it feels like if I focus on the people side of things too much, one, that's going to be a big time drain. And then also, I'm not going to be able to focus on these hard results. And so but actually they're not competing. What we know is if I focus on my people and how they're doing, actually that will spin up. So I think all that pressure can make us focus more on the numbers. We need to, don't get me wrong. We're running a business. We need to make money. We need to survive. But I sometimes feel like I don't have time to do the other things, and I think that's a lie. What I find often from contributors is like, I just want to know that my leader's there. A simple thank you, have an open door. We don't have to spend a lot of time doing this in order just to connect in a real way. So I think that there's like I said, kind of a misnomer, but that pressure is real where I feel like I don't have the time to do these things. We're feeling overwhelmed.
And it's the simple things that have the most impact. This week,
Yes.
I was working with an organization, and the team members, from the top down, the top person doesn't need validation, says he doesn't need validation. Let's put it that way. And his team members were like, yeah, I don't mind a pat in the back. I would actually like that. And what does that look like? It could be an email for a thank you note. It could be a written thank you note. It could be a multitude of a social media post. I mean, sometimes we think it's going to be a big thing, and really it doesn't have to be. Sometimes I feel it's like we create this big thing so that we create a fear so that we don't have to do it. It's our own mind playing a trick on us.
Yes.
So darn hard. So darn hard. I love this concept of redemptive leadership for you. And that's what I love so much about leadership is that leadership does not stay at work. Leadership is oftentimes the most important in your home. And so while we're talking about leadership within businesses here on the Working Moms Redefined podcast, it's because you know that they go back and forth. If you are not happy at home, you will not be happy at work, and vice versa. So when you talk about redemptive leadership, this is what you're going to focus on February 27th here in Quincy at Leadership Redefined Live that we here at Denise Talk at Leadership are getting to put on for all of you listeners. Tell us what redemptive leadership means to you and how that can create space for leaders with no shame.
Oh, I love that. Love that. Thank you so much for that great question. I You can have a very high performing team, and we do get blessed with amazing people and success, and our organization is moving along well. Um, but because we're leading human beings, which we are, John Maxwell says managers lead processes and machines, leaders lead people. And so we're leading human beings. And guess what? Human beings are fallible and they're going to make mistakes. Even our best performers. I'm probably going to make 3 mistakes of some sort yet this afternoon. I don't know. But it's going to happen. And so one, redemptive leadership understands that there will be those hiccups and there will be those rubs. And so we need to have a plan in place for when those things happen, whether they're large errors or whether they're smaller things, to make sure that we are keeping people in the fold. And depending upon what kind of break it is, if has there been a small failure? Has there been a small mistake made? Has it been something larger? One, we need to correct what has happened, but two, we also need to redeem that person and that relationship. And that's helping them to right the ship, and also help give them that vision again and that plan for moving forward and include them. Time and time again in organizations, or even when my sons were growing up, I'd see teams that they were on, like sports, and the team could be extremely successful. And that coach could be blessed with having high performing players and things are moving along. But again, they're human beings. They're going to struggle. They're going to slip up. And I've seen very successful teams diminish their performance and sometimes break up altogether because that that leader didn't have a means to redeem that player when they struggled.
How? Where do we start? Well, how do we set up a plan so that when that happens, we're ready?
Mhm. Well, one is we have to, it's really about plowing fertile soil. So we have to have the expectation that there are going to be mistakes that happen. We need to have enough trust in our people to know that, look, I believe in you. We need to tell them that I love you no matter what happens. We are going to move forward. When those mistakes happen, I'm here for you. So we also need to let them know that I've got your back. We need to have open communication about what's going on, and also not let things go on too long before we kind of reach in and say, hey, you okay? Sometimes, and this is a pet peeve of mine, I'll see leaders that are concerned about something they're seeing, and I'll say, well, what are you going to do about that? Or what are your thoughts? What are your next steps? And they're like, and they will say, I'll wait and see, or we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I love, right? No, please don't do that. If you're noticing something, you're seeing it for a reason. And so, when you're to that point where you want to say, that's the fourth time that has happened, or I've seen that a dozen times, like, tie out. Let's address it. Let's keep short accounts and address things earlier on. So part of it is proactive in terms of when I see anything happening, I just want to address things. We know our people. We spend a lot of time together with our people. And one of the questions that I will ask sometimes is, hey, how you doing? Everything all right? You just don't seem like your normal old Jamie today. Everything going along okay? And just doing those simple check-ins. Now they can respond with like, it's been a horrible day. I had an argument with a snarky teenager this morning, or whatever it is. Or it can be, no, I'm fine. They can keep the shiny veneer if they want to. But just being that leader that they know you have their back, and we are building this on a foundation of trust. I am going to address things, and also failure isn't fatal. If we have some sort of mistake, we're going to treat that like a learning opportunity, and we're going to move forward. There's not going to be blaming. There's not going to be chastising. We praise in public, we criticize, we correct in private. And so just kind of developing those relationships based on trust is definitely where we have to start.
So good. Self-awareness is a large part of this. It comes up again and again in this type of work that we get to do. Why is that such a foundational piece, would you say, of leading well?
I have to know myself first. I have to know my triggers. I need to know what my strengths are. There again, that's going back to just knowing that I'm enough. I'm going to have good days and bad days, but I need to know um, how I approach things. I just need to know and be okay with myself, non-judgmentally. We tend to be so critical of ourselves. We can be our own worst critic. And a lot of the time we don't even air those criticisms, we just kind of keep them inside, and they sit there and they marinate and they grow. And even just expressing some of those things can really help diminish that, because those things are going to suck your energy right on out for your ability to address things when you need to. So I need to know how I'm talking to myself, what I'm thinking about myself, in order to be able to lift up and give that to the next person.
Is there a certain mindset shift, would you say, that you would encourage people to adopt to help leaders move from that criticism mindset to more of a self-confidence mindset?
Yes. And I have to quote Albert Ellis, famous psychiatrist. He's no longer with us, but he was one of the great people that I got to learn from when I was in grad school. I actually heard him speak when I was in grad school. He was elderly at the time. The man could swear like a sailor. And you know what? You've earned that place in your life. He had great stuff to share. But he was the founder of rational emotive behavior therapy. I won't be quizzing you on that later.
Thank you.
But here's what it's about. He really talked about when we make a mistake, when we mess up, we need to take the lesson from that. But again, we can, as leaders, as achievers, we sometimes we'll take that too far. We'll ruminate on it. We'll kind of beat ourselves up with it. We'll do the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. So we need to, there's a balance to strike there. I need to extract the lesson from it, but I also need to make sure that this doesn't translate into beating up on myself. So that mindset is, take the lesson, but don't let it drain my confidence. Don't let it drain my ability. Okay, so I've learned something. And he actually coined this phrase. He would talk about, don't should all over ourselves. Okay, I didn't swear there. Don't stop shoulding all over ourselves. SHOULDING. And so, have I taken the lesson from it? I think I have. What am I going to do next time with what I know now? And then it needs to stop there. We need to stop doing the coulda, shoulda, woulda.
That translates so nicely to showing up as a working parent.
Yes.
How do you apply that personally as a grandparent now, but even as a mom to younger kids? How did you apply that mentality that you now are able to teach so many others in organizations?
I remember when my boys were little that if I was feeling overwhelmed or like I was underperforming in one area of my life, that it would very quickly bleed out into all other areas of my life. And that was something that I needed to learn. But I noticed I felt like if I was not as effective as a counselor as I could be, or I didn't have a great day as a student, then I was also telling myself, I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad sister, I'm a bad daughter, I'm a bad, all of those things. And it's amazing how that can spin up and our mind will just take it and run with it. And also, our mind is a powerful thing. What we focus on, it's going to look for and it's going to confirm and it's going to expand. So I had to learn to say, wait a minute. And I had to learn to separate character from behavior, who I am and who I'm designed to be and what my character is different than my behavior. And those are two separate things. And again, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make mistakes. So if I've had a bad day or if I've messed something up, that doesn't change who I am. That doesn't make me any different than I was 5 minutes ago. And also, if I'm really successful and I'm doing really well, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to make a mistake tomorrow. So what I had to learn was, you know what? Just because I had a bad day at work does not make me a bad mom. Just because my boy and I had an argument or we're not seeing eye to eye on something, and also there's this pressure. When my sons were younger, as a counselor, it was kind of a danged if you do, danged if you don't kind of a thing. Because they would say if I said something smart, they're like, "Mom, I don't want you to counsel me."
Right.
And if I said something dumb, then they're like, "Come on, Mom, you're a counselor. Get your head in the game."
I love
You-
that comment. My character is not my behavior in those hard moments. Yesterday, Jamie, literally yesterday morning, I was very frustrated with the fact that the kids were not moving on the time schedule that I thought they should be. And I was not my best self. It was because I was really nervous about a big presentation that I had. It was 4 hours long. I knew I had done the prep work for it, and yet I was still nervous. I took it out on them because I found an easy place to place the blame. Self-aware enough to be able to admit it. I even knew it in the moment, but I literally could not get myself out of it. I recognized it to them out loud, said, I will be better when I get home. I promise. But it sat with me all day. And I had to fight that thought of, I am a bad mom, one, or two, I'm not going to do as great of a job because I'm going to let that bleed into the rest of the day. And that is
Well,
where the choice had to come in. I had to give myself grace, apply that redemptive leadership. And by golly, when I got home that night, Sydney and I were planning to cook and we cooked and she goes, you are in a much better move. That phrase, my character is not, my behavior is not necessarily my character in that moment would have been really great to apply out loud to teach them. So thank you for that example and that little nugget. So, so good. So good.
thank you for sharing that. Can I call something out there that I heard you say? Like,
Yes, please.
how about modeling failure and redemption for your kiddos that you did there too? You absolutely you were, you were big enough to say, "Hey, I'll be better later on." So you called out your mistake and you showed them how to redeem the relationship for yourself and with them. That's beautiful.
Jamie, my hands are getting sweaty. Thank you for calling that out and that compliment. But I wouldn't have noticed that in that moment had you not shed light on that. So thank you. And
Mhm.
that goes back to what we said earlier about we're so hard on ourselves.
We are.
And I think for me, it's because like that's how an unhealthy way for me to motivate myself. Well, if I didn't do well enough, then I'll do better next time because doing in my mind is how I associate with success. If I do more, if I
Yes.
be more, then I
Yes.
am good enough. And working on that day in and day out is something that all of us probably do. But being able to recognize it and talk in community with people like you and I helps us get better. When you get to work with these fabulous companies, you see similar tones and notes and topics that we've already discussed today. And yet, how are you able to show them that relational leadership goes beyond the workplace, especially in home dynamics, to lead with the same intent that we do at home, also at work? How do you teach them that?
I like to connect people to their purpose, and ask them why it is that they do what they do. And a lot of times we start with home because that's just easier, right? Why do you do what you do? Why do you stay the course through those sleepless nights and diapers and, all the things, the finding out at 8 o'clock at night that I need 20 cinnamon rolls tomorrow morning, all of those kinds of things that we run into. Like, why do you do what you do? Why do you stay the course? And then just kind of build on those answers. That's their purpose. That's their vision. And we have people at home and we have people at work, and they have the same needs. They might show up a little bit differently in the workplace, but they have the same needs. It's the same skills to work with people at home, just as it is to work with people at work. And again, we're all human. And so to just remind them, call them back to their purpose, call them back to their vision. I do like to talk to people about, do they know what their strengths are? And help them lean into their strengths, help them lean into who they're made to be and see that as a strength rather than there's something wrong with me. But even if your family didn't raise you to talk about every conflict, and maybe you learned to kind of like just avoid conflict, and maybe you've been called conflict avoidant. Wait a minute, actually, there's some strengths in there. You have a tolerance for letting things play out. And so I really like to reconnect people to their purpose and their strength. And I think that helps them see when I have a right view of myself, which, believe me, it's going to blow in the wind a little bit just with everything that goes on. But when I have a right view of myself, it helps me to establish a right view of other people.
Hmm. It goes back to your point of our brains are so powerful. What we think is what we will find and look for and prove to be true.
Mhm.
And so, if we don't know our purpose and our own values, how could we ever help others find theirs?
Right. Right.
With redemptive style leadership, both at home and at work, you talk about repair. And why is repair sometimes even more powerful than getting it right the first time?
I It's, in my opinion, it's everything. It really is. And I'll start with the home. And then I think in organizations as well, this can actually go a long ways for customer relationships, certainly. But at home, one of the things that I learned as a marriage counselor that I did bring into my home, and by the way, you can't counsel your children or your spouse, just saying. So we don't have perfect families or perfect relationships. We're human and messy just alongside. So these are hard won lessons, let me tell you. Um, but one of the things that one of my marriage counseling trainers said, to really help people, and I did teach this to couples, is don't apologize too soon. Wait, what? Don't apologize too soon. Well, it's important to apologize, right? What do you mean don't apologize too soon? And by that, we mean we need to make sure that the person who's been hurt or wounded, we need to give them airtime to kind of talk about what exactly it was that was the offense that caused the pain for them. If I say I'm sorry too soon, best case, I really don't know what it was that caused you a problem. Worst case, it could come across as a gag order. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I told you I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Right. So we brought that in with our boys as well. And, there's been a little dust up and, okay, you apologize, all of that. But no, instead what we would say is tell him what bothered you. Okay, and then tell him what you heard him say bothered you, and then say, "I'm sorry for." Please don't say, "I'm sorry, period," but say, "I'm sorry for," which communicates understanding. Not did we do that perfectly? Did we do that all the time? No. But we really wanted "I'm sorry" to mean something and not just have it be kind of a rote practice that you do and think everything's gonna be fine going forward. So the same thing goes in the workplace. If there's been some sort of a misunderstanding or a rub, I need to find out what the communication issue is. Is there a misunderstanding? Is it just a timing thing? But what's the problem? I need to find out what that is, and I need to hear it from that person's perspective. And I would always ask my counseling clients to be able to reiterate back the other one's concern in such a way that you could be their defense attorney, even if you don't agree with them. So
Oh.
yes. So and the same, and we teach leaders this all the time now, like you may not agree with their perspective, but you don't have to agree in order to understand it. And I would like you to be able to articulate their perspective that could be so crazy wrong, but I'd like you to be able to do it in a way that you could be their defense attorney if you had to. And so that's a pretty high standard, but it takes the weight off of what's right and wrong and like, how are they looking at the world? And how am I ever going to be able to approach you to get things back on track, to reconnect with you, if I'm not willing to even look at the world from where you're sitting? Right? I might get compliance, but am I going to get engagement?
No, man.
Same thing goes in a customer experience. And I do call those moments of truth. I don't recommend that organizations intentionally mess up. I don't recommend that. But when there has been some sort of a mistake, it's an opportunity to lean in, get to know our customer better, find out what it was that really caused them the problem, and then fix it in a way that's going to be meaningful to them. And a lot of times we might have a trustful relationship with an organization. If I put my customer hat on for just a moment, I've got organizations that I work with and things have gone along fine, and that's great. We've never really had any problem. But if I think about the organizations that I'm most loyal to, it's the ones where we did have a problem and I let them know about it. And they took care of it in a way that really honored the relationship. So that makes a difference to me. And the most dangerous customers, in my opinion, and also employees, are the ones that won't tell you about what the concern is and they'll go away quietly.
Yeah. So well said. And asking questions, of course, is a great way to get down to maybe the root, but not always can you if their own insecurities are showing up so much so that they're avoidant. And that's not your responsibility to necessarily take on, but it is your responsibility to be aware of.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
good. We obviously spoke about earlier that you get to come here to Quincy to speak at the Leadership Redefined live event. Cannot wait for that. Redemptive leadership is what you're going to talk about. Why do you believe an approach that is centered on restoration and connection and purpose is so needed right now?
I honestly think that's the most hopeful position to hold. There is so much swirling around right now to divide us, to alarm us, to, if things are going well, to maybe make me feel like, how long is this going to last? Am I just lucky? Um, I would rather have a more realistic mindset that says, you know what? Um, things are going along, things are going well. But if the unthinkable happens, if there is a problem, guess what? We've already been there. We're going to deal with it. We know how to do that. And that's why I want to make sure that my colleagues know how to redeem relationships. That to me is a really high bar. Do you or don't you know how to redeem relationships? That is a high standard that I really value in my relationships. Because again, if you put two people in a room long enough, and this is from a therapist perspective, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be some sort of a mistake or some sort of a rub. So for me, that's the most hopeful position to hold. We can't control what's going on in our world. We can't control what's going on in some of our communities. But we are maybe not in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm and we're in this together. And so I'm a real believer in controlling what I can. And while I can't control all of that, but swirling around and different perspectives, what I can control is how I relate to you, how I talk to you, how I encourage you, and how I suspend that relationship between the two of us. So where I put my energy also is going to expand my opportunities. But if I focus more on what I can't do and what I'm afraid of, and I do allow myself to have this mindset of like, things are going great for now, but what happens, I feel more powerless. I feel like that's not very hopeful for me. So I do like that hopeful stance of we need to have a repair mode, if you will.
More oftentimes than not, when listeners or attendees come to leadership events, it's because they have this desire to grow. And absolutely, that's how it should be.
Mhm.
But I also think it's important to give recognition for where each and every individual currently is good enough. You're up leveling yourself to be different or better or to see different perspectives. And with that thought in mind, how do you want people to experience you and your message come February 27th without adding more pressure to do more?
Oh, I love that question. Yes, because we can do that, right? We can take our notes and we've got 15 things that we've got stars by in the notebook, and I'm going to go do all of this. First of all, yes, you are enough right where you are. None of us will ever arrive, however, but we can always keep growing. So anything you attend for your growth, whether it's listening to podcasts like this one or attending conferences, is a step in the right direction. It's a vote for you and it's a vote for your strength and a vote for what's right about you. So anything you attend, it's not remedial. It's not because we need to fix something that's wrong. It's because I do want to grow in that direction. So what I encourage people to do when they've attended something and they are investing in their growth is, again, speaking to achievers, pick one thing that you can lean into and don't feel like you have to lean into six.
Yeah.
Let's tip one domino and let's get those small wins. As one of my fellow leaders likes to say, let's get those small wins and celebrate those. Let's tip that one domino and build that confidence from that. And then let's tip the next domino. I think sometimes, I'm going to speak to the moms for a minute because I think, especially as women, we do feel very challenged and called to multitask. We do have a lot of spinning plates. And so naturally, then we feel like if we want to grow, then we need to do something in all of those areas all at the same time because, frankly, we've been capable of it and we are able to do that, right? Um, However, with this, I like to encourage intentional, small growth steps because those are going to have the longest lasting impact. And here's the other thing. If you have any sort of a daily reader or a devotional or any sort of a daily habit that you're building, it's great to mark those off when you've been doing those, but there are going to be bad days. There are going to be days when you're sick. There are going to be days that it just doesn't happen because everything crashes in on that day. Please don't stop though. If you've missed 3 or 4 days and it's today, on this Wednesday, but I've missed since Saturday, just pick up Thursday tomorrow. It's all right. That's absolutely just something you can do. So when you're learning and engaging in those small steps, don't feel like it's a total fail and you got to go back to square one if you miss a few in there. Every one of those still counts as growth. And no matter what life throws at you, your growth cannot be taken away from you.
So good. What are you most excited about being in the room come February?
I love being in a room with like-minded people who really want to grow and develop. And selfishly, I feel like I always take more away than I could ever offer. Just the encouragement, you hear people's stories and you learn from their experiences. It's just like I'm getting goosebumps right now answering this question. I just being around in that atmosphere, and I know that you create just high, excellent, kind of settings for that kind of. I am just that's what I'm so excited about. It's like being in a room. It's like being in an incubator where we all level up a little bit more together,
So good.
and amazing memories are going to be made.
Absolutely. Ah, so very well said. We love to end every episode with lightning round style of questions. And so, Jamie, here's your first one. What is one truth that you wish more leaders believed about themselves?
What is one truth that I wished more leaders believed about themselves? That is, you are right where you need to be right now. And don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah. Mm.
Comparison is, yeah, you're right where you need to be right now.
If you could leave any working parents that is listening with one idea about leading well at work and at home, what would be your tip?
I would say create a healthy separation between the two. Know that you're a whole human being, but create a healthy separation between the two. And think about how you want to show up in both of those places. But again, you have those children to lead, you have that spouse, you have that home life that was given to you. And you're right there for such a time as this. And same thing goes with work. You'll have those good days and bad days, but just think about how you want to show up. And know that if one is struggling, and actually it's kind of a blessing. If in one area I'm struggling, usually not all of life is going bad all at the same time. So look for those nuggets of light in other places when we're struggling in one of those other areas.
Very
Generally, life balances itself out that way.
good. What kind of leaders do you feel like our team members and our children need right now?
I think they need real ones,
Ooh, real ones. Good.
real ones, transparent,
Yeah.
Not afraid to show like my failures, speak into my failures, say, here's what I've learned, pick up that rock, warts and all, and worms and all on the bottom and look at what's going on. They just need real leaders. They don't need perfect leaders. They don't need super smart leaders. They just need real leaders that they can talk to, that they can just be themselves with.
Mm.
And my real is going to look different than your real. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just be yourself.
Final questions, perfect in that thought process. What is one word to describe currently the season that you are leading?
It's been a lot of growth. It's just been a lot of growth, which is exciting. My word for this year is light, because I think there's a lot of darkness that's been swirling around, a lot of confusion. And so that's my word for two reasons. One is to share light, delight, make sure that we're offering hope and not unrealistic way, if I can speak. But then also light is to make sure that I'm not carrying or dragging along things that I don't need to.
Yeah.
So making sure that I'm letting go of burdens that I was never meant to carry.
Oh, I love that. Twofold. Very good. My word of the year this year is anchor. So whether I am anchored or helping others find their anchor or anchoring, to be able to trust in myself to be authentically me and not drift too much, but giving myself permission to do so. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, fabulous. And you are doing that. You are living into that for sure.
I
Love that.
appreciate it. Jamie Hansen with Alloy Solutions. She is going to be in Quincy on February 27th for Leadership Redefined Live. You can get your tickets available right now at denisetalkatleadership.com. They are quickly selling out. And this is where I get tearful, Jamie. Like, what a humbling experience to be able to know that we are going to have so many amazing individuals in one room surrounding each other to learn and grow. It's so cool that so many of you have already signed up. So if there are still tickets available, it's at denisetalkatleadership.com. We would love to have you in the room so that you can meet both myself and Jamie if you have not yet gotten to do so. Jamie, thank you for your time, and we cannot wait to squeeze you in person. Thank you for listening to the Working Moms Redefined podcast. It is not lost on me that you chose to spend time together. Thank you. Let's connect outside of this space on socials. We'd love for you to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. We've got it all to connect with you. If you feel as if someone in your life could be impacted by this message, feel free to share it. That is the biggest compliment. As we part ways together, remember, you can do hard things.